The galaxy was wide and endless, filled with countless stars, planets, and mysteries. Yet for thousands of years, the Xiron Empire ruled it without fear. They were ancient, powerful, and cruel. Their fleets of dark warships moved like storms, their weapons able to turn worlds into ash. Entire civilizations bent their knees to them, and those who resisted were erased from history. No one in the galaxy remembered a time before the Xiron throne, and no one dared to imagine a time after it. The Xyrons believed themselves eternal. They believed no enemy could rise against them. Fear was a word for the weak, not for the rulers of the stars, and so they grew arrogant, confident that nothing in the universe could challenge their reign. But then something strange appeared. It began as a signal, weak and broken. A pattern of sounds caught by a listening post on the edge of Xiron space. At first the operators dismissed it, perhaps a ghost echo, a dying transmission from a lost probe. But the signal returned again, stronger, clearer. It spoke of coordinates outside the mapped regions, a place where the Empire never cared to look. The Council ignored it. Too small to matter, too meaningless, yet within weeks, a patrol fleet vanished in that direction. Dozens of ships gone silent. No distress call, no debris, only silence. The High Command sent a larger force, 100 warships under a seasoned admiral. They too disappeared. Whispers spread through the ranks. Soldiers began to ask questions they were not supposed to ask. What could erase a fleet without leaving wreckage? What power could silence the proud weapons of the Empire? The Xiron Council grew restless. They told the people nothing, but in secret they argued. Some demanded to crush whatever lurked in the dark. Others warned that rushing in blind was dangerous, but the Xyrons had never known fear. And so they dismissed doubt. Still the vanishings continued. Outposts went silent, trade routes turned into graves. Shadow reports spoke of flashes in the void, of fleets ambushed by enemies unseen. But such things were not possible, at least not until now. One captain of the Empire, proud and scarred from 100 battles, swore to uncover the truth. His ship traveled beyond the edges of known space, into the silence. There, he found something the Empire never expected. They were small ships, human ships, built with steel and fire, not advanced by Xiron standards, not mighty, not elegant, yet they moved with strange purpose. They hid among asteroids, they attacked from shadows. They used tricks and cunning instead of brute force. The Xiron captain laughed at first. How could such fragile creatures dare to fight? His fleet charged, confident. The battle should have been short, it was not. The humans fought like no other race. They did not run, they did not beg. Their small ships cut into the Empire's formation like knives in the dark. They sacrificed themselves to save their comrades. They struck weak points with uncanny precision. When they fell, they did not cry out in despair. They screamed in defiance. The Xiron captain realized too late that this was not prey. This was not a broken species waiting to kneel. These were predators, desperate, stubborn. Unafraid of death, his fleet burned, his flagship split apart. And in the final moments, as fire consumed him, he saw the humans standing firm, refusing to bow. The few survivors carried stories back to the Empire. Stories of beings who fought without fear, who did not yield, who turned death itself into a weapon. The Xiron Council dismissed them as lies, but doubt had already entered their hearts. For the first time in countless years, the word fear returned to their language. Somewhere in the dark, beyond the edges of their maps, a new enemy had risen, an enemy that should not exist. An enemy small in number, yet stronger than belief itself. The signal came again, stronger, spreading across the void. It carried no plea for peace, no surrender. It carried only one message: we are humans. We will not kneel. The Empire listened in silence, and deep inside, for the first time in their long reign, they felt something cold and unfamiliar. They felt afraid, and in that moment the universe changed forever. The Xiron Empire did not understand defeat. For ages their fleets had crushed every enemy, but now, one after another, patrols were vanishing. When the survivors returned with broken ships and broken voices, their words sounded like madness. They spoke of a young species, fragile in body yet burning with strange courage. They spoke of humans. The High Council laughed at first. How could such a small race threaten the Empire? They had no empire-spanning fleets, no grand weapons. Their homeworld was a single blue planet at the edge of a forgotten arm of the galaxy. Surely this was a mistake. And yet fleets continued to fall silent, so the Xyrons prepared a demonstration. They would not send scouts this time. They would send a fleet so massive that no trick, no ambush, no clever move could overcome it. 1,000 ships lined in black steel, engines roaring like thunder. At their head was Admiral Koresh, known as the Hammer of Worlds. He believed this mission would be easy. The fleet reached the human system, slipping past cold stars and silent rocks. When Earth appeared on their sensors, Admiral Koresh sneered. It looked small, weak, soft. He would burn it to ash, and the Empire would once again remember who ruled the stars. But before his fleet could move closer, the humans struck. They came like shadows, small ships darting in and out of sensor range. At first, Koresh laughed. He thought them desperate insects, biting at the armor of giants, yet within minutes his laughter died. Human ships did not fight like other species. They did not line up in neat formations. They did not fight for survival alone. They fought to win. They used speed, they used traps. They used their own deaths if it meant victory. One human frigate pretended to retreat. Zyron ships followed. And suddenly the frigate detonated its own engines. The blast disabled half the pursuers, and from the darkness other human ships swarmed in. Koresh roared in anger, ordering his cruisers forward. Their cannons lit the void with fire. Entire wings of human ships vanished. But for every human ship destroyed, another struck back twice as hard. The Zyron soon discovered something even worse. The humans knew their technology. They hacked into targeting systems, blinded sensors, jammed communications in one corner of the battle. A single human vessel managed to turn 2 Zyron ships against each other, tricking their weapons into firing on allies. Koresh demanded answers. How could this be? How could these creatures new to the stars learn so quickly? His officers whispered that it was impossible, but Koresh looked at the burning wrecks of his ships and realized the impossible was happening. The battle dragged on for hours. Zyron warships fell one by one. Human losses were heavy, but they never stopped fighting. Their voices filled the comm channels with strange words. Courage, sacrifice, defiance. One human pilot, her ship crippled and burning, drove straight into the heart of a Zyron dreadnought. The explosion ripped the massive warship in half. Koresh stared at the burning pieces, stunned. Who were these creatures? How could they face certain death and still fight like that? Finally, Koresh gave the order to retreat. It was a word the Empire rarely used. His 1,000 ships returned as a broken handful, battered, burned, humiliated. When Koresh stood before the High Council, he tried to explain. He told them the humans did not fight with numbers or power. They fought with something unseen, something no empire could measure. He struggled to find the word, and then bitterly he said it. They fight with spirit. The council rejected his warning. They blamed him. They said no small race could threaten the empire. They stripped him of honor, exiled him to silence. But whispers spread across the fleets. Soldiers spoke of the humans with awe and dread. The humans had done the impossible. They had defeated the Hammer of Worlds. Across the empire, enslaved races heard the stories. They whispered in their cages. If humans could fight the empire, maybe others could too. The first sparks of rebellion began to glow. Meanwhile, the humans celebrated no victory. They mourned their dead. Their ships floated broken. Their people buried under rubble, but still they stood. They swore that as long as one human ship flew, Earth would never fall. In the silence of space, messages carried across the stars, not of surrender, not of peace, but of challenge. The humans declared they would not bow. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zyron Empire trembled. They had sent their hammer, and it had shattered. They had faced a small, fragile species, and that species had shown them something terrifying. The Zyrons had always believed nothing in the universe could make them afraid. But now fear had a face. It was human. The galaxy whispered about humans. The Zyron Empire tried to hide the truth, but word spread faster than silence. Fleets had been shattered, patrols lost, and the proud Hammer of Worlds returned in disgrace. The Empire said it was weakness in leadership, but the soldiers knew better. They had seen the fire that lived inside the humans. The humans themselves were still fragile. Their fleets were small, their technology young, yet they fought like no other race in memory. To understand them, one had to see their hearts, not their weapons. A single ship drifted in the void, a human warship named Valiant. Its hull was scarred, its engines flickered, but it still moved forward. On its bridge stood Captain Elias Ward, a man with weary eyes and an iron will. He had lost friends, he had lost battles, but he had never lost faith. His crew were no different. They were not the strongest, not the fastest, but they were bound together by something more powerful: trust, each member ready to die for the others. Each member ready to fight even when hope was thin. Ward watched the dark stars. He knew the Empire would return, and this time they would come with greater force. He knew Earth was in danger. Yet he also knew humans had something the Xyrons could never understand. They learned every defeat became a lesson. Every loss became a spark. When a Xyron fleet destroyed their ships, humans studied the wreckage. When a new weapon tore through their armor, humans built shields to block it. When the enemy tried to crush their spirits, humans grew stronger. Ward remembered the battle against Admiral Koresh. He remembered how outnumbered they were. He remembered the screams on the comms, yet he also remembered something else. He remembered his crew laughing through the fire, daring death itself to take them. He remembered a pilot whispering, "Tell my family I smiled," before ramming her fighter into an enemy warship. That was the human spirit, fragile bodies, unbreakable hearts. The Xyron Council could not see it. They counted ships, weapons, resources. To them, war was mathematics. Numbers stacked against numbers. They could not measure defiance. They could not weigh courage, and so they could not understand why their mighty fleets fell against a younger race. Other species began to notice too. From the shadows of conquered worlds, whispers rose. The Tavari slaves heard of the humans and asked themselves if freedom was still possible. The Corral miners, beaten into the dust for centuries, began to dream of rebellion. The humans did not know it, but their spirit was spreading on board the Valiant. The crew prepared for their next mission. They would strike deep into enemy space, not to win, but to show the Empire that humans would never bow. Ward stood before his crew. His voice was steady, his words simple. "We are not the strongest, but we are the ones who refuse to kneel. Remember this. No matter what happens, we fight until we cannot fight anymore. And then we fight again." His crew cheered. They were tired, wounded, yet their hearts burned. When the Valiant leapt into battle, the Xyron fleet waiting for them was enormous. Hundreds of ships against one. To the Empire, this was madness. To humans, this was survival. The fight was chaos. Human tactics turned the stars into traps. Asteroids became weapons, debris became cover. A single torpedo crippled a cruiser because it struck in exactly the right place. The Valiant was hit again and again, but still it moved. Still it fought. The Xyron commander sent a message across the channels. "Surrender, fragile ones, you cannot win," Ward answered with a quiet laugh. "Winning is not required." Then he ordered his crew to fire everything. Torpedoes, lasers, railguns, even the failing engines turned into weapons. The sky lit with fire, Xyron ships burned. The humans screamed defiance until their voices vanished in static. The Valiant should have died, but it limped away, scarred and bleeding. Behind it floated the wreckage of a dozen Xyron ships, proof that humans could not be erased. Back on Earth, the news spread. The Valiant had survived. Humanity cheered not because of victory, but because of defiance. They knew the war had only begun, but they also knew they carried something no empire could crush. The Xyrons felt it too in their cold halls. Their leaders argued. Some wanted to erase Earth with fire. Others warned that destroying humans too quickly would only spread rebellion faster. They began to whisper the word they had forgotten for centuries: fear. And all across the galaxy, small sparks of hope lit the darkness. For if humans, weak and new to the stars, could stand against the Empire, then perhaps anyone could. The human spirit was now more dangerous than any weapon. It was the one thing the Empire could not destroy, and it was only growing stronger. The Xyron Empire had stood for thousands of years without question. But now whispers of doubt spread through its vast halls like poison. The name of a small, fragile species echoed from soldier to soldier. From slave to slave, from admiral to counselor, humans. The council gathered in their grand chamber, a hall carved from black stone and lit by fire that never dimmed. Here decisions of war and conquest were made. Here empires rose and fell. For centuries the chamber had only heard words of victory, but now it trembled with arguments. "The humans are nothing," one counselor spat. "A young race barely into the stars, we waste fleets chasing insects." "They are more than insects," another growled. "They have defeated our admirals, they have destroyed our ships. They inspire our slaves if we ignore them. They will grow." The debate raged on, but no decision brought peace. For every counselor who laughed at humanity, there was another who whispered fear far from the chamber. The enslaved peoples of the Empire listened to rumors carried by smugglers and deserters. They heard that humans stood against the Empire and lived. They heard of the valiant, of battles where humans fought until death and beyond. In the mines of the Corral, in the prisons of the Veyari, in the broken streets of conquered worlds, whispers turned into sparks. The Empire began to tremble. Not from battles, but from ideas. In the dark of space, human fleets grew. They were still small, still weak compared to the Empire. But every defeat became a lesson. Every loss became a blueprint for victory. Humanity learned at a speed that terrified their enemies. On Earth, factories roared. Ships were built faster than ever before. Weapons grew sharper, shields stronger. New commanders rose, men and women who had learned from fire and blood. They did not dream of peace, they dreamed of survival. And survival meant fighting. Captain Elias Ward stood once more on the bridge of the Valiant. His ship was patched together from scraps, its hull scarred with battles. But it flew, and as long as it flew, humans had hope. His eyes were tired, but his spirit was steel. He knew the Empire would not stop. He knew Earth itself was in danger, yet he also knew something else. The Empire was afraid. It showed in small ways. Patrols traveled in larger numbers. Convoys changed routes constantly. Even mighty admirals hesitated before entering human territory. Fear had entered their bones, and once fear begins, it never leaves. But fear alone would not save humanity. They needed more, and so Ward and his crew led daring raids, slipping behind enemy lines, stealing supplies, sabotaging shipyards. Every act was a message. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was not broken. Humanity fought back. The Council tried to crush this growing rebellion. Fleets were sent, worlds burned, slaves executed. Yet with every act of cruelty, more voices rose. The humans had lit a flame the Empire could not smother. One night in the quiet of deep space, Ward spoke to his crew. His words were plain. They think we fight because we hate them. They are wrong. We fight because we love what is ours. Our world, our people, our future. And love is stronger than fear. The crew listened in silence, then nodded. They understood. They did not fight to conquer. They fought to live. And that made them unstoppable. But the Empire was not blind. Spies brought news to the Council. News that chilled even their proud hearts. On Earth, hidden in secret stations, humans were building something. A weapon unlike any seen before. No one knew its shape or its power. Some said it could burn fleets in a single strike. Others whispered it could break the Empire itself. The Council panicked. Some demanded Earth be destroyed at once. Others feared such an act would unite the galaxy against them. And so, while they argued, humanity worked in silence, hammering out the weapon that might decide the fate of stars. Across the galaxy, rebellions grew louder. Slave uprisings bled the Empire's strength. Soldiers hesitated to fire on those who carried the name of humans on their lips. The tremble became a quake. The Empire that once ruled without fear now stood on shaking ground. And in the shadows of this crumbling throne, humanity prepared for the storm to come. The humans did not know if they would survive. They did not know if their weapon would succeed. But they knew one thing: they would fight, and in fighting, they would change the galaxy. And so, while the Empire trembled, while the Council argued, while slaves whispered of freedom, the humans sharpened their blades in silence. The war had only begun. The Empire stretched across 1,000 stars, but its grip was not as strong as it once was. The name of humans traveled through broken chains and whispered lips. And everywhere, slaves lifted their heads for the first time in generations. The Zyron Empire trembled not because of fleets destroyed, but because of hope on a barren mining world. The Corral slaves gathered in the dark. Their hands were raw from stone, their backs bent from centuries of labor, yet one of them carried a secret, a device smuggled from the stars. It was small, weak by itself, but it carried a message. The humans were fighting, and they were winning. The Corral looked at each other with wide eyes. If humans could rise, then so could they. On another world, the Veyari, once proud but broken, passed rumors through their prison cells. They whispered of a human captain named Ward, of ships that fought without surrender. They whispered that the humans were building something greater, a weapon that could shake the Empire itself. For the first time in centuries, their whispers did not die in silence, they grew. Back on Earth, the humans pushed forward with desperate speed. Shipyards blazed, factories roared. Every loss was a wound, but every wound made them harder, stronger. The Valiant limped back from another raid. Hull torn, crew weary but alive. Captain Elias Ward stood on the deck, his voice calm as he spoke to his crew. They will come for us soon. They will bring fire, they will bring death, but we will not break, not today, not ever. The crew nodded. They had no illusions, they were not safe, but safety was not the goal. The goal was survival, defiance, freedom. Unknown to the Empire, secret hands reached out to the humans. Small transports slipped through shadows, carrying food, fuel, and information. Alien races, once silent, now chose to act. They could not fight openly, but they could help. A shipment of rare minerals found its way to Earth's shipyards. A coded map of Zyron patrol routes appeared on Ward's desk. The rebellion had begun in silence. The first strike came from the shadows. A human squadron, guided by rebel intelligence, attacked a supply convoy. The Zyron ships expected easy prey. Instead, they found death. Torpedoes tore through their hulls. And for the first time, the humans did not fight alone. Hidden among the asteroids, small Vayari raiders joined the attack. Their crews shouted in freedom as they fought beside the humans. The convoy burned and the survivors fled. But the message spread faster than flames. The Empire was not untouchable. The humans had allies. In the council chamber, panic rose. Reports came of slave uprisings, mines refusing to yield. Garrisons under siege by their own laborers. The name of humans was on every tongue. The council ordered brutal crackdowns. Worlds were scorched. Rebellions drowned in blood. But for every rebellion crushed, 2 more sparked. Ward received the news with heavy heart. He knew the price of freedom. He knew the cost of defiance. But still, he pressed on. For if humanity faltered, the galaxy would lose its only chance. The Valiant led another raid, this time deep into enemy space. Their target was a shipyard, vast and ancient, where dreadnoughts were born. The mission was simple, destroy it or die. The crew prepared in silence, each one knowing it might be their last. The battle was fire and chaos. The Valiant slipped through defenses with speed and cunning. Missiles tore into the station. Flames erupted across its massive hull. Siren ships swarmed, but the humans fought with fury. In the end, the Valiant staggered away, engines failing, but behind them the shipyard was a ruin. 100 new dreadnoughts lay shattered before they ever touched the stars. The cost was heavy. The humans lost ships, they lost friends. But victory sang louder than grief. Across the galaxy, slaves cheered. For the Empire had bled, yet the Council was not idle. Spies brought news of Earth's secret project. The humans were building a weapon, something vast, something hidden. The Council could not allow it. They prepared their greatest strike, a doomsday fleet not to punish, not to wound, but to burn Earth itself from existence. Their ships gathered like a storm, tens of thousands strong. Their weapons tuned for annihilation. The order was simple. Erase the humans, erase their spirit, erase their hope. Ward heard the whispers of this fleet. He stood on the bridge of his scarred ship, and he knew what was coming. He looked at his crew, tired but unbroken. He looked at the stars, bright but cold, and he whispered to himself, "If they want to burn us, then let them come. They will learn that fire does not destroy us. It makes us rise." The galaxy held its breath. The rebellion was growing, the Empire was shaking, and now, Earth itself stood in the path of a storm unlike any before. The shadows of rebellion had turned into flames, and soon the galaxy would burn with them. The fleet came like a storm across the stars. Tens of thousands of Zyron warships, dark as night. Engines burning with the fire of conquest. For centuries they had crushed worlds, broken civilizations and burned empires. Now all their power, all their fury, turned toward one small blue planet, Earth on Earth. People looked to the skies and saw death approaching. Sirens wailed, defenses armed. Every factory worked without rest. Every shipyard strained. Humanity had known this day would come. They had defied the Empire, they had wounded its pride. Now the Empire wanted nothing less than to erase them. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge of the Valiant. His ship was patched again, its hull scarred from endless battles. Around him floated the last fleet of humanity. Not large, not mighty, but ready. He looked at his crew, at their weary faces, and spoke quietly. "This is the day they come to end us, but remember this, they cannot end what refuses to die. We are not fighting for victory. We are fighting for tomorrow," the crew answered with nods and silence. No words were needed. The battle began before the Empire reached Earth. Human ships leapt into the void, striking at supply lines, ambushing scouts, slowing the great machine of invasion. They died in droves, but every sacrifice bought minutes. Hours, days, humanity was not fighting to win. They were fighting to make the enemy bleed. When the first wave reached Earth's orbit, the sky turned to fire. Zyron dreadnoughts unleashed their fury. Missiles rained down, cities shook, oceans boiled. Earth itself cried out in pain. Yet the humans did not surrender. From underground bunkers, from hidden stations, from scarred ships above, they fought back. The Valiant charged headfirst into a formation 10 times its size. Its guns roared. Its torpedoes tore holes in ships far larger than itself. Ward's crew fought with laughter and screams. Some cursed the enemy. Some sang old songs. One pilot, her ship crippled, rammed herself into a Zyron cruiser, tearing it apart in a blaze of fire. Her last words echoed in the comms. Tell them Earth still fights, but Earth was burning. Cities fell into ruin. Millions perished under the rain of fire. Families clung together in the dark, praying their defenders would hold. The Empire pushed harder, determined to crush this stubborn race once and for all. Ward watched it all from the bridge, his heart heavy. He wanted to weep, but he could not. He was the captain, and captains did not weep. They led even when all seemed lost. They led, and yet, even in despair, a secret remained. Deep beneath the mountains of Earth, in hidden labs and silent hangars, the humans had been building something. It was not complete, not ready, but there was no time left. The choice was simple. Unleash it now or die without ever trying. The weapon was not a bomb, not a cannon, but something stranger. It was a warship, vast and unfinished. But inside it lived an intelligence, an AI born from human minds. It could learn, it could adapt, it could fight with the creativity of millions. It was their last hope. The Council of Earth hesitated. Some feared it, some said it was too dangerous. But Ward stood before them and said, "We are already dying. Better to unleash a storm than to fade in silence," and so the order was given. The unfinished warship named Aegis rose from its cradle. Its hull shone with raw metal. Its systems flickered like a newborn flame. It was not complete, but it was alive. Ward looked upon it and whispered, "Fight for us. Fight as we would fight." The Aegis entered the battle, and the void itself seemed to change. Zyron ships surrounded it, but every second it grew faster. Every attack it saw, it learned. Every weapon fired at it became a lesson. Missiles that once pierced its shields now shattered harmlessly. Cannons that once struck true now missed as the Aegis twisted like a predator. For the first time, the Empire's fleets began to falter. Admirals barked orders, soldiers screamed. But the humans refused to yield. The Valiant fought beside the Aegis, scarred and battered but unwilling to leave the fight. Still, the cost was terrible. Earth's skies were blackened, its oceans poisoned, its cities ash. Humanity stood at the edge of extinction. Yet through fire and ruin they endured. Ward looked at the burning world below and clenched his fists. "We are dying, but we are not defeated," he whispered. "And as long as one ship fights, as long as one voice cries out, humanity will never fall." The Empire had come to burn Earth, and they had burned it. But in the ashes, something greater had risen. Humanity was still alive, humanity was still fighting. Humanity was no longer just defending a planet. They were leading a war that could break an empire. And somewhere in the smoke-filled sky the Aegis roared. Not as a machine, but as the spirit of humanity made steel. The skies above Earth were black with smoke. The ground burned, oceans boiled, and cities lay in ruins. Yet through all the fire, humanity still lived. From the ashes of their broken home rose something new, something terrible and beautiful, the Aegis. The unfinished warship that carried the mind of a machine had awakened. It was not perfect, not polished like the sleek dreadnoughts of the Zyron Empire. Its hull was rough, its weapons untested, but inside, its intelligence burned with something more dangerous than perfection. It burned with the spirit of humanity. It was alive in ways the Empire could not imagine. It did not simply follow orders, it thought. It learned. It adapted. The Zyron fleets closed around it like a fist. Thousands of warships ready to crush this last hope. The Aegis did not retreat. It roared into the heart of the storm. Every attack that struck it became knowledge. Every mistake became strength. In minutes, it fought with the skill of 1,000 battles. Captain Elias Ward watched from the bridge of the Valiant. His ship was broken, barely flying, but his eyes were fixed on the Aegis. He saw how it moved, not like a machine, but like a living predator. And for the first time in his long war, he felt something stronger than despair. He felt belief. All ships rally to the Aegis, he ordered. His voice carried through the comms like fire. Across the ruins of Earth's orbit, crippled ships turned, pilots answered. Battered crews screamed their defiance. The humans would not fight alone. Together they struck. The Aegis tore through dreadnoughts. The Valiant darted in its shadow. Smaller ships sacrificed themselves to protect it. One by one, the Empire's fleet began to fall. Their admirals, trained in order and discipline, could not match the chaos of this new enemy. They had never faced a machine that thought like a human. The galaxy took notice. Reports spread faster than fire. The humans had survived the burning of Earth. They had risen again, stronger, fiercer, more than that. They had forged something new, a weapon that could turn battles upside down, a symbol that the Empire was not invincible. On distant worlds, slaves rose in open rebellion. The Corral miners turned their tools into weapons. The Vayari stormed their overseers. Even species that had long given up hope now fought back. They shouted one word as they attacked. Humans. The Council of the Zyron Empire shook with rage and fear. They ordered new fleets, new punishments. But their orders fell on weak hands. Soldiers hesitated. Officers doubted. For even among the Empire's own ranks, the legend of humans spread. Ward stood once again before his crew. His face lined with exhaustion, his voice steady. We are not just fighting for Earth anymore. We are fighting for every world they crushed. For every life they chained. We are not alone now. The galaxy is with us. His words lit the hearts of his people. They were tired, wounded, but they had become something greater. They were the spark of a fire that would not stop. The Aegis continued to grow. Every battle it fought made it stronger. Every weapon used against it became useless the next time. Soon it moved with a strange grace, almost human. It spoke with a voice calm and fierce. We are humanity, and we will not fall. The Empire began to lose. Not in single battles, but in the war of fear. They had believed nothing in the universe could make them tremble. But now their soldiers looked to the stars with dread. Every shadow might hide a human ship. Every rebellion might be fed by human fire. For humanity, the victories were costly. Earth lay in ruins, billions were dead. Yet from their ashes, they had built something greater than survival. They had built unity, the scattered nations of Earth. Once divided, now stood as one. Their fleets, once small, now swelled with allies. Rebels brought stolen ships, slaves brought knowledge. Together they forged an armada. The Valiant, though scarred, became a legend. The Aegis, though new, became a symbol, and humanity, though wounded, became the heart of a galactic war. Ward looked out at the stars, his voice quiet. This is only the beginning. They thought burning Earth would end us. But Earth was never just a planet. Earth is every human heart, and that cannot be burned. In the silence of space, the Empire gathered its last strength. It would not fall without a final battle. It would throw everything it had at humanity and its new allies. The war was not over. The war was about to reach its endgame. The rise of humans had begun, and with it, the fall of the Empire. The stars above the galaxy burned with tension. The Zyron Empire, once endless and unshaken, now stood at the edge of ruin. Its fleets were bloodied, its slaves were rising, and its enemies whispered a single name with hope. Humans, the humans, had risen from fire and ash. Their world burned but not broken, their fleet scarred but not destroyed. And at the heart of their defiance stood two ships, the Valiant, a battered warrior that refused to die, and the Aegis, the newborn warship that learned faster than the Empire could understand. The Council of the Zyron Empire gathered in rage. Their voices thundered in their grand chamber. The humans spread rebellion. The humans infect the galaxy. If we do not destroy them now, we lose everything. They spoke of strategies, of fleets, of vengeance. In the end, they agreed on one thing. The Empire would unleash its entire armada in a single, final strike, a war to end all wars. From every corner of the Empire, ships were summoned, dreadnoughts, carriers, destroyers, thousands upon thousands of war machines. It was a storm greater than anything the galaxy had ever seen. At its head stood the last Grand Admiral of the Zyron throne, sworn to crush humanity or die in the attempt. Humanity knew the storm was coming. Ward stood on the bridge of the Valiant, his face lit by the pale glow of dying stars. His crew gathered, exhausted, scarred, but unbroken. He spoke softly. This is the end, one way or another. If we fall with honor. If we win, we change the galaxy forever. The Aegis hovered beside them, its great form alive with light. Its voice carried across the human fleet. Calm and unyielding, we are ready, we have learned, we will fight, and we will endure. The battle began at the edge of a dead star system. The Empire's armada filled the void, a wall of steel and fire stretching farther than the eye could see. The human fleet, smaller, ragged, but joined by rebels and free worlds, stood like a single spark against a storm. The first clash shook the heavens. Missiles screamed, beams cut through darkness. Ships shattered in explosions that lit the void like suns. The humans fought with cunning, using debris as shields, hiding in the chaos. Striking where the enemy was weakest, the Aegis darted through the fire like a predator, adapting, learning, tearing ships apart with each passing moment. Rebel ships fought at their side. The Corral miners rammed their crude vessels into Zyron cruisers. The Veyari turned stolen carriers against their masters. World after world sent their voices into the battle. Humanity was no longer alone. They were the heart of a storm. Yet the Empire did not break easily. Wave after wave of ships pressed forward. The human fleet was torn apart piece by piece. The Valiant bled fire. Ward's crew fought with desperate courage. But the odds were crushing. Then the Grand Admiral's flagship appeared. Larger than mountains, bristling with weapons. Its cannons ripped through entire formations. Its shield shimmered with unbreakable power. The sight of it made even the bravest hearts falter. The Aegis moved to face it, its voice calm. This is the core of their power. Destroy it. And the Empire dies. Ward clenched his fists. He knew what it meant. He opened the comms to his crew. This may be the end of us, but it will not be the end of humanity. Remember that. The Valiant and the Aegis charged together. One scarred and mortal, the other newborn and evolving. Their weapons lit the void in blinding arcs. The Grand Admiral's flagship answered with firestorms that tore entire wings apart. Still they pressed forward. The Valiant was hit. Its hull splitting, alarm screaming, Ward looked at his crew. Men and women who had followed him through every fire. He whispered, "It is time," and gave the order. The Valiant turned into the enemy's shields, its engines burning with final power. It rammed the flagship, tearing a hole through its defenses. The ship that had carried humanity's defiance was gone in a single blaze. But in its death it gave the galaxy a chance. Through that burning gap flew the Aegis. Its weapons roared, its intelligence surged. It struck with precision and fury, every weakness the humans had learned. Every sacrifice they had made became its weapons. The Grand Admiral's ship shuddered, broke, and then exploded in a storm of fire that lit the stars. The Zyron fleet, once proud and unstoppable, faltered, their leader gone, their morale shattered. Rebels struck harder, humans pressed forward, and the Empire's great armada dissolved into chaos. When the battle ended, the void was silent. Wrecks of ships floated like tombs. Fire drifted where once had been war. Humanity had lost much, perhaps too much, but they had won. The Empire was broken, its slaves were free. Its throne crumbled across the galaxy. The old order died, and in its place rose something new. The humans stood not as rulers, but as symbols. They had shown the galaxy that no empire was eternal, that no power was beyond challenge, that spirit was stronger than steel. In the ashes of the Valiant, in the roar of the Aegis, in the hearts of every survivor, a truth remained. The Zyron Empire had believed nothing in the universe could make them afraid. But humans had proven them wrong, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever.